Welcome to the latest edition of the Mom's Playbook podcast. My name is Heather James, and as always, I'm joined by my pod partner, Jasmine Zor. In each episode, we dive into the intricacies of raising a student athlete, from managing practice schedules and travel arrangements to insider tips on recruiting. Let's jump in.
All right. Today, we're really excited to get to speak with Alejandra Ordonez. She is the mom of two. She has her son, Enrique, is a running back currently in high school at Nice High School in Jacksonville. And he also excels in track and field. And her daughter, Maria Elisa, is she's currently going to University of Florida, and she trains at Jacksonville Strength. She is actually at weightlifting at the USA weightlifting level, which is really exciting to speak about today because we haven't had any moms of weightlifters, much less a female weightlifter. So this is really exciting. Welcome, Alejandro. It's very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you both, and good morning.
Good morning. So now tell us a little bit about your prior sports journey. Did you play sports? Did your husband play sports?
Yeah, so funny thing about both of us, he grew up in California, and I, here in Florida, St. Augustine area, I moved from Mexico when I was about to start high school. So for me, I've never played sports before, but somebody had recommended at the when I moved into the high school here. I was tall for a girl to play basketball. So I gave it a try. I can't say I was the best, but it gave me an opportunity to meet people, make some friends through that channel. In fact, I stay very close still with one of the girls on that team where she lives here. She's moved back here to the area. So she'll come here often, here and there. So we're still in close touch after 30 years, not to age myself here, but yes. So
That's amazing.
that was about the only sports that I played. And then my husband, who grew up in California, he had the opportunity to play like little league, a little bit of baseball because some of his friends were doing that. So he kind of, was kind of involved in that circle from that perspective. And then he ended up playing high school football and was a quarterback his senior year for the local high school. He grew up in a very small town. So he had a lot more passion for football than I did. I didn't know a whole lot. I've known to, learn about it, especially now, as you mentioned, my son plays football. So that's about, so he's been more of the sports person and I've kind of slowly been learning, like I said, especially as both of my kids, I had to learn both sports because they were new to me.
How old were they? Where did they start? What did they start playing?
So for Enrique, my son, we started. He liked football because my husband would watch football, and he wanted to play football, but I was never really keen on him playing football. So one time we went to like a mother-son cornhole tournament at his elementary school, and one of the local leagues there had call it a scholarship, for you to start it, try it for free. And I never won anything, but sure enough, that was the time that he won something. And at 5 years old, he started playing football through the little league team there. And he did. He also played, because we try to expose him to different things. Our goal wasn't like you have to play a sport, but keep active, don't sit idle on the phone or the computer or the TV, whatever. We wanted them just to keep active. So he did do some t-ball, swimming. He tried swimming, but football was the thing that stayed with him. So he liked it since he was 5 years old. So he kind of has stayed in that niche. Marilisa was a little different. She did a lot. She did dance, gymnastics, swimming, t-ball when she was little too. She tried a lot of things. She did for sure say she does not like anything with a ball. She tried soccer too. She said she didn't like catching things or anything like that. But she did swimming for a long time and tried for the local high school. It was a big high school, so it was really difficult to make it her, I guess, freshman year when she tried out. So she didn't have a whole lot to do that she thought about, well, what can I do? So when we went to her orientation, they have the different tables of activities and sports that they offer. And at that time, I was doing CrossFit myself. So a lot of weightlifting and, I enjoyed it. It was fun. So they had a girls weightlifting club. So I said, maybe you should try it. I don't think so. I don't know. I got to think about it. and she did give it a try. Her and one of her friends decided, yeah, let's give it a shot. And she had been involved with the girls weightlifting since her ninth grade. That's really when she started lifting competitively, if you will. And as she fell in love with that sport, we started to get her more involved with more certified trainers that helped her more with her technique. Because high school, they're usually just regular coaches, football coaches, some of them are. So they just go in and, start and I'm glad that there's that support, to get these clubs going.
And
But that's how she started with that weightlifting bug.
and is weightlifting, is it a fall sport, a spring sport, or is it basically you're training year round?
Well, for high school, it's considered a winter sport. So that would start about now. This is when high school, at least here in Florida, I don't know. I guess different parts of the country have different sports at different times. But I think, at least in this area, it starts about now and it goes through the winter time, if you will.
So did she compete with FHSAA, or was it strictly a club where they had, independent kind of meets and tournaments and things of that nature?
Yeah, so it was all through FHSA, the Florida High School Association. So that, yeah, they have their meets, their sanctioned meets with districts and things like that. So that's how she started. She had never really lifted weights before that time frame. So she started learning about it and doing competitions. This is more of it's funny because it's individual, but it's also team because you compete against girls in your weight class and your age, but at the same time, at least for high school, you also earn teams for points for your team. So you win as once everybody competes, then one of the teams usually wins based on how many points every girl brought into their lifts.
What lifts did they do at the high school level?
High school level, it has changed a little bit. When she started in ninth grade, it was just two. It was the bench and then what they call the clean and jerk. So clean, you bring the weight up to your shoulders, and then from shoulders as a jerk up to your overhead. So it's two moves, if you will, and that is Olympic lifting. That clean and jerk is considered an Olympic lift. This is what you see in the competitions, even Olympics and things like that. So that's what they do, clean and jerk. And then later on, they started to align a little bit more with the USA weightlifting categories, and they added the snatch. So the snatch is literally lifting one movement from the floor to above. So there's no two separate movements. It's just one clean sweep from the floor to above your head. They've started doing that probably, I think, when she was maybe sophomore or junior year. They were trying to align that a little bit more with the USA weightlifting lifts, but they kept the bench. So they call it the traditional bench and clean and jerk, and then the Olympic snatch and clean and jerk. And then they were doing, some girls would only compete in the traditional or the Olympic, and she did all three of them because she got comfortable with all three of them.
And then at the Olympic level, it's just two lifts, correct?
The snatch and the clean and jerk. So those are your Olympic, lifts.
That's what we see when every 4 years. That's the good stuff.
Yes, exactly. Those are exactly it. Because then you have powerlifting, where they do more of like the bench and the deadlift, just individual moves. Olympic weightlifting is, one clean, smooth, movement. But that's what you see in the Olympics, as you noted.
So, did she get involved in this simply by happenstance because you guys found it at registration, or was it your influence with doing your workouts that led to her interest, do you think?
Yeah, I think I had to push her a little bit because she didn't want to try it. I'm like, just try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again, but at least you've given it a shot. So, and I don't know that I would have maybe not necessarily pushed her, but encouraged her to try that route if I had not done it myself before and I enjoyed it. So I said, just give it a try. You never know. If you don't like it, you can always don't do it again next time. At least you've given it a shot and see, what you feel, if you like it or not. So, like I said, her and one of her friends, I guess it's like, okay, we'll do it together. And they're actually both still competing. Her friend is still doing weightlifting as well. So
No
they
way, that's
both
awesome.
fell in love. Yeah, they both fell in love with it, and they're both continuing to do it as well.
So tell us about the transition from high school to the college level or to the elite level outside of high school. Because there's got to be a transition of kind of like in football, like your son. I don't know if he wants to play in college, but with traditional sports, they get recruited to go to the next level. How does it work with powerlifting and weightlifting?
Yeah, so, believe it or not, there's not a lot of weightlifting, especially girls weightlifting type of scholarships or anything like that at the college level. And like as you experience football, I mean, we're going through that with my son too because he is looking to continue to play at the next level. But with girls weightlifting, there's really not a lot out there. There's very limited colleges that offer that as part of their programming. What we found is a lot of these colleges do have weightlifting, but they have it sponsored through like a separate club. They go through like have their own club, not necessarily part of like a football program, but it's kind of its own individual club, part of the college scenario there. But with Marilisa, as she moved out, and even during high school, she started competing at the USA weightlifting sanction meets because she wanted to kind of go to the next level. So you go through, individual local meets that obviously have to be sanctioned through USA weightlifting to count. So that means that there's judges there, and the people that are doing it are sanctioned through USA weightlifting. They're certified, they've taken training, they know the rules.
How much is there usually like an entrance cost or what? How does that work?
Yeah, so if you want to compete through USA weightlifting competitions, you have to have a membership with them. So it's a yearly membership. And typically, you do have to pay a competing fee when you go to one of these competitions. So it really moves up from the local sanction meets. And as you go toward the end of the year, kind of like summer time frame, that's when you have about a year to kind of meet the requirements to move on to a state competition through USA weightlifting. So she was able to make those state meets, for about 3-4 years. And then then after that, you have different requirements, higher requirements to go to the national competitions. So she had been chasing that national competition level because you have to meet a certain amount of weight lifted. So they combine, as an example, to keep it simple, you snatched, 100 pounds. So that's 100 pounds that you made. And then you do your clean and jerk, and you did like 150 in your clean and jerk. So your total amount was, 100 plus the other 50, 250. So that was your total weight. And there's a minimum requirement of total weight lifted to make a state competition, and then obviously a little higher to make the national competition. So she had been chasing that minimum requirement to make it to the national level for a couple of years, and she finally did it this past summer. So she was very excited, and she's got a goal again. She wants to be there again next year. And of course, that's where some of the Olympians come out from those particular meets. Those that, obviously get to the highest levels are the ones that those coaches are going to start to tap to start moving them into the potential Olympic competitions.
So at this point, it's not based off of age anymore. So we're not talking junior, senior, under 20. We're talking weight, right? The weight of the female athlete, and then there's a certain standard for that weight class.
Well, and they still divide you. Weightlifting is kind of like wrestling as well. If you've ever been involved with that too, they still, even at this level, divide you by age and by weight class. So there are ages and weight classes, and in fact, there's still some individuals, and they're called masters, but you can still compete after 35 as well. You will see some ladies out there competing past the age of 30. I mean, they're considered all masters, but there are still individuals out there competing, and I think that's pretty cool. And just to sidetrack a little bit on that point is there was not weightlifting when I was in high school. There was no girls weightlifting. God forbid you did that. But it's amazing how much it's developed just in the last 30 years, because now we go into some of these competitions and we'll see like really young girls, I would say probably middle school and some, old, probably even younger, late elementary schools, that girls that are starting to get involved and they're getting involved in competitions. And it's like, it's so encouraging to see that, because typically it's been discouraged for women. You can't lift weights, whatever. But it's like, I don't know, it brings a different level of confidence in girls, being strong, being able to do things that was the other thing for me, is like it built her confidence amazingly. It's, for girls, it's so hard sometimes, body image and you got to look a certain way, whatever. This, it has brought her so much confidence. It's like, it's amazing what it does. Just, you're a strong girl, it's like you
Yeah.
can't take that away from her. So it's that, from that perspective, that's been one of the biggest gains, in my opinion, that she's gained personally.
And now, has she ever had any setbacks, injuries, or anything like that?
She has, in fact, in order to make the national competition, because you have to have met that minimum requirement weight by a certain time, because after that time, then the registration opens for those that qualify to compete in the national championships. So she was very close as of her last meet. There was going to be one more meet in Tallahassee, the last kind of cutoff meet where she would try to make that minimum weight requirement. So decided she wanted to do it. She wanted to try for it. So we did go. She went to that meet and she PR'd. She got those minimum requirements. But during one of the lifts, the last snatch, her elbow popped. And she had never had that happen before, and it bothered her for a little while. And we ended up having to take her to an orthopedic just to see what's going on. And this is, again, where we're trying to make her, we have like maybe about a month before the national competition is happening. So he put her in she had a sprain in there, put her in physical therapy. We did all this stuff to try to make it better. And it got better. It wasn't 100%. But she wanted to go for it, and she went and did the best that she could. It bothered her a little bit. It wasn't her best competition, but she knew what she wanted to accomplish, and she wanted to compete at that national stage. So she went through, she kind of got through what she needed to get through to be able to compete.
Yeah, to circle back on something that you just mentioned when you were talking about building her confidence. When I was doing some research for today, I came across a hashtag, so silly, but girls who lift, hashtag girls who lift, has billions and billions of users. So the growth of the sport, you're right, is pretty incredible. I think that has to do with, number one, it becoming an Olympic sport in the year 2000. For men's weightlifting and powerlifting, it's been in the Olympics since I think 1895. Took a
Forever,
hundred.
it seems like.
Yeah, it took over 100 years to bring the women's side in, and now we're seeing billions of women using that particular hashtag. So if it's a million, that's great, but we're seeing billions, so that just shows you that women are starting to lift. They are gaining confidence by doing it. Not only does it build stronger bones, stronger muscles, slow down the aging process, all these other positive things, but it does, I think, for younger women, build that confidence level that is so, so important at that age. And it gives them an opportunity to get in the gym with a goal in mind, right? It's
Yeah.
not just about losing weight. It's about becoming a strong woman, building that strong body for your whole future. What does her training look like? I know we'll come back to her injury because I'm always curious how athletes overcome injuries, but what does her training look like to get to the point where she is reaching a new PR or a personal record? Where does that come from? How does it look?
Yeah, so she trains, I think it was mentioned, Jacksonville Strength. It's a gym that very pretty much focuses on Olympic weightlifting. The main coach there, the owner of the gym, his son has been competing and he has made it to the Olympic level, international already. So his son has been competing for a long, long time, but he has made it to the Olympic levels. So he obviously knows very much so what it takes to get individuals to that level. But that gym has grown as well. Like I said, there's from young girls and boys as well, from all ages, levels, etc. Some people are there to begin their journey, and others are, as I said, like his son competing at the Olympic level. So he has a very specified program for all the athletes, depending on what their goals are. More intense training for those that are looking to some of these USA weightlifting championship level. So they go through a cycle. She trains at least 5 times a week for at least 2.5 hours, and she likes it. She enjoys it. She's not a morning person, but Saturdays she's up early and she's going to the gym because that's when they do it, Saturday mornings. And she usually goes in the evenings during the week because of school, etc. But sometimes she'll come home and does her mobility training, because they do mobility training as well. They got to be able to keep those limbs loose and mobile and to be able to do those lifts. So she is actually very dedicated to that time. But yes, it's at least 2 hours, 4 to 5 times a week. So
Sounds very much like a college athlete.
yeah, and she enjoys it. I mean, that's it. She looks forward to it. So that's, to what you had mentioned before. She kind of fell in love and gives her confidence, and she feels great about it. So it's not like a chore.
What does the mom side of that look like when you have a young lady competing? What do you do in the background? What have you been doing in the background to help her get to the level that she's at?
Well, it's trying to be a calm it's for her. Same with my husband. I mean, we probably get jitters every time, even with my son too. Every time he goes plays a game, we're driving and it's like, oh, I'm so nervous. But with her, when she's about to lift, you get those jitters. But right before, you always tell her, just focus, take a breath, do what you know what to do, and just don't overthink it. Just do what you know that you're there to do. Just try to be like a calming voice, even though sometimes you might feel those jitters yourself. But try to give her the confidence, and it's like, do your best. That's all you can ask of yourself, just to do your best, and that's all you can do. We try to keep it, calm and encouraging. Like I said, same thing with my son. We're always driving to the football game, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. It's amazing when they just go out there and just they do what they know to do, and it's very encouraging to see them do things that you never thought they could do. So, for both of them.
Do you still travel to her meets?
We do, yes. And for the most part, before you get into this, obviously state, you're still staying within Florida. But the local ones are typically in the area in Jacksonville, even Orlando. We've done Tampa. States, vary. They switch them out. Sometimes Orlando. They're not too far. Obviously, the National was the biggest travel one that we've had to do. It was in Colorado Springs, and it was something. My sister lives in that area, so it was an opportunity to go see her as well. And they got a chance to also see her lift because they live far. They really haven't seen her live. It's usually video streams or something. So they got a chance to see her live, and that was pretty cool as well.
Colorado Springs. So was that at the Olympic Training Center?
Yes, in that area, it was
Very
Colorado
cool.
College, where they actually had the meet. I believe that's where it was. But yeah, we got a chance to tour the Olympic Center and see where the Olympians, live, and the different training centers that they had. It was pretty amazing. We got to tour the gym, the aquatic center. I guess they showed us a room too where they can emulate different type of environments, like super humid and very cold, just to get these, because sometimes if they go train, the Olympics are somewhere in the Alps or whatever, just different climate conditions. It's amazing what they have there. So
Well, just the difference in climate from Florida to Colorado, the air quality, right? They're at a higher altitude. We're super humid and hot. I'm sure that had a play. I mean, even though they're indoors and it's air conditioned and it's a controlled environment, it's still different when it comes to breathing in a place like Colorado versus below sea
yeah.
level Florida.
Yes, and we were concerned about that because she's always lifted here. So we did think about that as like, oh, will that be a big factor? Because even when we've gone to go visit my sister in the Denver area, it takes a little bit to adjust to, one time we did a hike and it's like, oh man, it feels like we're dying here. And it's like, yeah, it's just the altitude.
Yeah.
So that kind of played through our heads a little bit, but she seemed to have adjusted fine. It didn't play a huge factor. But yeah, some girls and guys got there early in the week so they could adjust a little bit better. So it's amazing how those minor factors could actually play a key role in your performance.
No, it does. My son played football in South Florida, and even though college football starts in August, they train all summer. They train in that heat and that humidity, and then when teams come to play in South Florida, it definitely will dehydrate them. You'll see the fatigue a little bit faster, and just the opposite when we go to cold environments, our team is not
Yeah.
used to playing in cold
Nope.
environments. So it's definitely, I think, a factor. Just like health and nutrition, weather plays a role. We just sometimes forget about that.
For sure, for sure. You try to get them to hydrate a little bit more, and it's funny you mentioned the nutrition part, and it's on the one hand I have my son who's trying to gain weight, for football and get bigger and lift weight. He does weightlifting too, but he eats a lot more. And my Lisa, because she's got to meet a certain weight range, she tries to keep it on the other side of it. So it becomes a balancing act here too at home, trying to make things for both of them that meet both of their requirements.
That is an
For what they want
interesting,
to achieve.
you mentioned something very interesting there because she has to eat to be strong, but she also has to eat to stay within her weight
Weight.
limit, just like a wrestler would.
Yes.
So how do you balance that?
Well, when she's not near a competition, she'll eat a little bit more, more carbs, just to protein to continue to give her the strength to do, better and be able to train hard at the gym. But depending on where she's at and how close to competition, then she'll start to have to cut back a little bit. Yeah, very similar to a wrestler. So try to lean it out a little bit, but not too much where she will feel tired. So it's a fine balance.
It really is.
So she tries to keep it not too strict. Once it comes closer to competition, depending on where she's at, she does need to cut down a little bit. And yeah, we've had some competitions where she's had to like pee, at the last minute. Don't drink water until she weighs in. So yeah, you have to go through a weigh-in process. And you have to meet that weight in order to compete in that particular class. So yeah, very similar to wrestling. And in fact, when we went to Denver for the national competition. She was very, very close, but not quite there. So we had to pack lunches for her to eat when she got with just some food. She couldn't eat really anything at the airport because she had to keep it very lean. So that was the first time that we've ever had to really like pack something for her to eat, so she didn't, obviously airports don't give you a whole lot of great options. So,
Yeah.
but at least she could control that part of it. And she was fine, but yes, it's a juggling act sometimes. Like I said, unlike my son, he's kind of the opposite. He can eat whatever, and he does eat. So he is on the other opposite end of trying to gain weight and gain muscle and all that other stuff. I cook a lot. I cook a lot at home, and sometimes for him, it's like I will make him if I do a dish that has ground turkey or whatever. It's like I'll do ground turkey for us and my daughter, and then I'll make something with the ground beef for him that has more calories and a little bit more of the fat and all the stuff that he needs. Sometimes it's a juggling act.
That's interesting because we didn't, Jasmine and I didn't worry about nutrition because it was provided by football, right? They were playing football. So all of their meals, all of their plan to help them reach whatever it was. Like my son, he got there at one weight and then he cut back. And then another coach came in and wanted him a little bit heavier. So he had to gain weight again. And then another coach came in and that coach didn't care. Just go do your job. So then he lost a bunch of weight because he said he felt fat. So then he lost a bunch of weight, but they oversaw all that. That's a job as a mom Jasmine and I didn't have to do, but you are doing it for 2 different types of athlete, which is
Yes,
super that's gotta be difficult.
yes, it can be. I mean, I try to keep it simple. Like I said, if I do, sometimes it is the same for both of us, but I know he prefers the beef and she likes the turkey better. And so it's like, it's trying to, same dish, but two different meats or something like that.
Yeah.
My son does the protein shakes, but eventually, if he is able to play at the next level, I would probably find that the university would be the ones to kind of manage all of that for him. So, but I mean, it's amazing. By themselves, they're like they don't eat a lot. We'll eat sweets, yes, of course, but like he doesn't drink a lot of sodas. Like on their own, they've kind of figured out too. It's like, oh, this is good for me. This is not so good for me. This is good to have once in a while. Even my son, who's the one that to gain weight, is like, yeah, he'll have a soda maybe once a week because he knows it's not the greatest for him, but he'll have one once in a while. But they know what they need to do on a day in and day out to do their best.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's a tough mom job. I'm glad I didn't have to do it.
It is. It is.
I sent him off to college and I said, "Here, feed my kid. I trust you."
He's on you now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm tired of doing all that.
Yeah, and that might be the case at least for my son, if he is able to, find somewhere to play at the next level. So, yeah, yeah.
And how old is he now?
He is a junior, so he'll be one more year next year, I guess. It will be, wow, bittersweet. I can't, still have
Yeah.
a hard time thinking about that. But he's also been playing super hard. He got a chance to start this year as a running back for the varsity team. So he's had a pretty good year so far.
Do you see are your kids supportive of each other and their athletic ambitions?
Yeah, they do. They have the sibling rivalry going on here too. It's like, oh, I can lift more weight than you, and you're the weightlifter, and I'm the football. So they do a little bit of that. But they did train a little bit together. I guess when my son started high school, he started learning the clean and jerk because they do that kind of stuff for football as well. And so they trained together for a little bit at the same. They went together to the gym and they trained together with it. And in fact, everybody compliments my son for his technique in the clean and jerk, and that's because he had some help and he had some other coaches that helped with the technique as well. So they did spend some time together doing that. But for the most part, they kind of do their. She goes to her gym and he does his training and his skill drills and all this other stuff. My son thinks weightlifting is boring, and my daughter thinks football is boring. But they'll show up.
Does he lift in the off season? Does he lift for the team there or just for football?
He does it just for football, and he does it at home too on his own. It depends on kind of what training is happening at that time. Sometimes they do it together as a group with the football team. Sometimes he'll just do it at home, especially on the off season when there's not as much structure. He'll just continue to do it at home. So they're both. I mean, I guess they both really love what they do. Nobody's telling them to do anything. They're just, this is what they like to do and spend their time doing that. So, which, hopefully I'll just continue on. Like I said, with my daughter, I think she'll probably continue to do that forever, which is great.
Yes, so it's a healthy way to live for sure.
Yeah.
Master one day.
Asked her one day. Yes, yes, yes. I can totally see that. But, at 35, you're considered a master, and then that's it. So
That's a young age to be considered a master too. Let's be
I would
honest.
agree. I would agree with that statement. Yes, it is. But I mean, you will see. I mean, when Maria Elisa first started, they used, when they first started forming the club, there was a lady who was like 60 years old, maybe a little older, and she got in there and started learning it, and she competed. I'm like, wow, that's like I want to be her when I grow up.
Amazing.
It's
I wanna be
amazing.
her when I grow up too.
Yeah, yeah, and you will still, you will see them out there, which is great. Like I said, it's just amazing the opportunity that it's given women, and everything. It's great. It's great to see all of that. You can see them from very, very young to all ages are competing, young and old. So I think that's great.
No, I think it's fantastic. I think that seeing an Olympic sport that we can play and be part of our whole lives is pretty cool because you can't do that in a lot of traditional, Olympic sports. If you're gymnastics, which I love Olympic gymnastics, you kind of age out. We don't see as many. I mean, a couple countries have some older gymnasts now, but before you age out before you hit 20. We're seeing a little bit different now. I know Simone Biles and athletes like that are over 20, but you still aged out. And then what do? You go maybe coach or move on to a different type of training. But this, if you can continue lifting, and it's so healthy. Like doctors want you to do this because it's good for your bones and your muscles and keeps you young. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. I have a kind of a off the topic question. How do you feel about having to do math when your daughter is lifting? Because all the research I did, it's all in kilograms, right? Not in pounds.
Correct. Yeah, it's all in the kilogram metric. So yeah, so it's like sometimes, and sometimes when you see other kids compete, you're like, okay, you get the calculators. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 2.2. We usually do 2.2, which is the official conversion. So I just do it times two in my head to get a quick average. If I want to get more specific to the end, then I'll pull the calculators. Like, okay, what's the 0.2 part of it? But yes, everything is in kilograms. Competitions, everything. The official metric is kilos.
Yeah. And then men and women do the same lifts. There's no different in the lifts.
No, same lifts.
Is the bar the same? So is the male bar and the female bar the same, or is it a little bit different?
It is different. The male bar is a little heavier. I want to
Okay.
say 10 pounds. I think maybe it's 45, and the girls is 35, I think. So it also, for grip perspective, they tend to have bigger hands, so their grip is bigger. So the bar tends to be a little thicker than the women's
Okay.
bar. So it is slightly different. So they'll obviously the bar counts as part of your lifted kilos, and then you just add the plates to it to meet that particular weight that you're you're going to lift. So, but yes, there is a difference between the men's bar and the women's bar.
And then how do they step up at a competition? Do they how well, let's go this. How many lifts do they get at a competition? Is there a limit, or where do you start when you go to a competition?
So traditionally, you will get, not traditionally, you do always get 3 lifts per lift. So for example, or 3 attempts, if you will. So you typically start with the snatch, the one that's from the ground straight up, one smooth lift straight up to overhead. You get 3 attempts. So you have to, usually you start, I think what the coaches tell is like you start with an opening lift that you are going to feel confident about, not too heavy. You start with that, build your confidence. Then you start the next lift, the second lift, start adding more of your higher level type lift, poundage or kilos, if you will. And sometimes the third lift, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, they're going to try to go for a PR. So you may or may not make the third one. The goal is to make all 3 of them and to try to PR on all your lifts. You don't always do that, but you get those 3 lifts. And of course, the highest number of kilos lifted at the end of those 3 lifts is what counts toward your particular lift. For the snatch, like I said before, if it was 100 kilos, then that's what you keep. And then you go through the same process for the second lift, the clean and jerk. You get 3 attempts. Similar process, an easy opener, not super easy. Obviously, you want to have a challenge, but something that is going to be confidently going to be able to lift it and then move on to the second one and the third one. Obviously, coaches don't want to give you a super heavy lift at the beginning because if you miss it, then your confidence kind of, you already get in your head about, I'm not going to be able to make the next couple of lifts. And that just sets you mentally in the wrong stage to continue to compete your other lifts. Like I said, progressively open up with a good amount of weight that you feel confident about, then start pushing it, that second lift. And depending if you're trying to PR, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, some people will try to PR, others will keep it to the max that they know they can do just so that they can get those kilos added to their official final numbers at the end of the competition.
And you start wherever you want and you add whatever you want. So you and your coach kind of strategize there to the steps that you're going to make to move up for each of those 3 lifts. And so you guys went to Colorado for 3 lifts?
6 lifts total.
6
Yes.
lifts, one for each.
3 in one and 3 in the other. And believe it or not, there is a whole strategy behind it because you get a certain, they progressively go through the weightlifting amount, poundage, or I guess kilos on the bar. So they will align the lifters based upon what they declare they're going to open. So they'll never go back and take weight off. It's always weight on, weight on, weight on. So the list of lifters will be displayed and for them to come up and lift based upon what they've declared they're going to lift.
Okay.
Now, sometimes if your lifter lifts back to back, meaning there's nobody in between to lift the weight in between what you did first and then your second lift, you only get 2 minutes to rest in between those two. So coaches, again, there's a strategy behind it. Sometimes they'll declare, knowing that there may not be somebody else in between to give your lifter more time, they'll declare kind of a lighter weight so that they keep the clock running a little more to give your lifter a little bit more time of rest in between lifts because it does take a lot to lift a lot of weight. So there's a strategy behind it, depending how many lifters are happening, what your lift is, what you're trying to accomplish. And the coaches try to buy as much time for their lifter so that they can rest in between the lifts. Because if you go back to back, sometimes 2 minutes, it's not a lot of time to kind of rest those muscles for the next heavier lift. So there is a strategy behind it. And it's amazing to see. His coach is great. He knows a lot. Obviously, a lot of them know this strategy and that's how they do it because they're trying to do the best for their lifters and give them as much rest as they can in between some of those heavy lifts. If there's not somebody in between that's going to lift, because somebody lifts, they get some time to go up there and lift it and then et cetera, et cetera. So there's a timing strategy and how many lifters in between your next lift. So there is a strategy behind all of that as well.
So does it change because you have more girls at the national level? Do you get more time in between lifts at the national competition because there's more, or?
No, not necessarily. Again, it just depends on, how many lifters you have and what weight they're doing. Because sometimes, it may not, sometimes they make big jumps. Sometimes they make back-to-back jumps, and sometimes you may be the only one that's going to lift let's say, 100 kilos and then 105 kilos. There may not be anybody in between, so they'll give you the 2 minutes, and then somebody may declare, well, if you know you're going to go for 105 kilos, I'm going to say you're going to do 103. Give you those 2 minutes, and once you declare a new weight amount, then it starts the clock again for another 2 minutes, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a timing strategy to try to get those lifters some rest time in between if you're going back to back. There may be, again, it just depends on what every girl is lifting and how the order is gonna come up. But
Is it kind
yes,
of like other sports where as you grow the level, so from local to state to national, that the competitions just grow in size as well? Or is the national level more elite so you don't have as many people qualify?
yeah, I think it's yes. As you get into the higher state and national, there's less and less people. But now for state, yes, it's not as many. But once you get to national, because now you're talking about people from all over the country that have made it to this level. So I think it was a whole week worth of competition for them. I get, again, by age, by weights, by etc. By the time all of the competitions were done, I think it was a full week worth of competitions that were happening there. Yeah, there is a lot of people, and they also, depending on your highest level, they will probably separate. For example, let's say you're what they call a junior girl under 170 pounds. Depending on how many girls qualified for that particular category, they may have two separate sessions because they don't want to have too many lefters in one session because it becomes too long and too much in between. They may split them, having the first group go first, the 2 hour time frame, and then another group of the same category, weight and age, go at a different time, just so that it's not like 30 girls competing all at once. It's usually about 10 or 15 in each session.
Wow. That's still a good group.
It is, yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I mean, like I said, it's grown a lot across the board and internationally too. I mean, you'll see some girls from all over the world competing with weightlifting. It's a sport that's, I think, taking on for girls. Like we said, boys have been doing it for a while, but for girls, for
Yeah,
taking
no,
off.
in the international, Olympic side of things, it's kind of been dominated by other countries, but
Hmm.
we've definitely made a strong push. The last Olympics, we made a really strong push when comes to the women's side, and saw the U.S. women finish
They
much
did,
higher than they had in the past.
yeah, they did good. They did good, and I think we're finally catching up on that particular sport.
How do you feel social media plays a role in the growth of weightlifting?
I think it probably has played a big role, especially with like young girl, getting involved young because they like to post some of these videos and show them what they can do and how much. I mean, I know my daughter, she's not a lot. She is on social media, but she doesn't post a lot. But one of the things that she will post is when she goes to competition and what she was able to do. So I think people start to see that and hey, she can do it. Maybe I can do it. And it kind of just snowballs kind of from there, in my opinion. That is like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. She was able to do that. Wonder if I could do it. It's like,
Yeah.
wish I could do that. Come try it. So I think for sure that has played a big part of it. And every gym may want to have their social media and they try to push some of the information out. And I know for the high school level, they have their own little social media and talk about what they've done and all this stuff. So I think that helps propagate some of that message across the to the girls and to other areas that they may have not known. Oh, hey, that's pretty cool. Maybe I can do it. Maybe I can try it. That seems pretty cool. So yeah, I would
Yeah, I
think
know
the same.
where we live in Florida, women or girls weightlifting, there's a boys side of things and there's a girls side of things, but we don't have the high school lifting that other counties in the state have. So it's not even really an option. So I think social media would play a big role there if a girl wanted to do it and
Yeah,
see that it is a way or
yeah,
another sport that they can get involved in. Something that they don't have to, not everybody's a team player, right? They don't like balls. Like your daughter said, she didn't want to play sports with balls, but she found this one. I think now social media is a great platform to show
yeah.
girls other avenues to be involved in sport than just the traditional. We've had traditional moms on in the past. You're almost untraditional, which I think is I don't know, I really dove into it and trying to learn about the sport cuz I just didn't know a lot. I watch it in the Olympics 100%. I watch it cuz I'm an Olympic junkie, but I've never paid attention to if our girls could do it in high school because I know we didn't have it here in the county. So the fact that you guys have it just a little north of me is pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and believe it or not, a lot of the local high schools here have it, and it's pretty big. And what's amazing too is that like I said, it's like it's an individual and a team sport, but
Yeah.
it's really amazing to see because everybody knows how much of an effort and how difficult it is to make a PR. Even the girls that you're competing against, when you make a PR, they're all cheering for you. They're all rooting for you.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the high school competitions, and even now, it's like you would see those girls, be near you and cheer you on. They're hyping you up. They're clapping for you, and it's like they want you to succeed. So even though you're competing kind of against them, they know that you're trying to make a PR. It's pretty amazing just to see the support that they give each other when somebody's trying to, achieve a PR or do something, or lift super heavy, because they know how difficult that is, and how rewarding it is if you do make it. So it's the fact that they cheer each other on is it's really an incredible thing to see.
That's a competitive culture that I would want my daughter involved in.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
absolutely, absolutely. It's pretty chilling to see just how much they lift each other up. Girls lifting each other up, cheering each other up. I mean, that's just it's very cool.
Yeah, and it's quite the opposite from other sports where the competitive nature, you hear it in the crowd, you hear it in the cheers, you hear it in the chants, you hear it in the comments where they're all putting each other down. That's a culture where they're lifting each other up, and
Yep,
that's where I
yep,
would
yeah,
want my daughter to be. How about you, Jasmine?
Yeah.
Now we have boys. I don't.
Oh, I have a
It's
daughter
different
too.
for us.
yeah.
I have only one boy. It's very different than having a daughter, but that's the kind of culture that I would want her to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, that was one of those things. It's like, oh my God, that's really wonderful to see. When we first started noticing, it's like, wow, like they're gathering and they're clapping and they're cheering and they're rooting for you. It's just like, it's just like, wow, you don't see that very often, to your point. So,
Yeah. When I was doing my research for today and I was watching videos, it really brought me to I don't know if you've ever watched women's gymnastics at the collegiate level, but those videos will hype up anybody in this country, and the fact that you see them off especially during the floor routines, you'll see the other girls dancing. They've watched it so many times, they're dancing with their teammate out there, they're hyping her up, and when I was watching similar videos, I could get that same feel, like, "Well, this is really cool." It's good for everybody.
it's a pretty cool thing to experience and see and be there to be part of it.
I
But it's
wanna go
definitely,
lift right now.
yeah, you should. We all should.
I just
Yeah,
wanna go do it. See what I can do. I would be a master without
yeah,
even becoming
yeah.
a beginner.
I would be past the master right now. So yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jasmine, what do you got?
We ready for some of the
The wrap-ups?
yeah.
Yeah, let's do
You
it.
ready? So, all right. So, what do you think is the most challenging part of your journey with your son and your daughter?
Well, growing up was just challenging because they had different schedules. Both my husband and I work full time, so it was challenging, trying to get them to where they needed to go, their games. What helped with my son, because like I said, he's been playing football since 5. My husband got involved in helping coaching, so he kind of took him now on, and I would take Marilisa to her things. And sometimes at that time, because they didn't drive, they were young, right? Had to sit in the car for an hour or two or whatever it was while they finished practice because you couldn't quite come home and go back and get them. It just didn't make sense. So I think we've done a lot of that. So, the time management and the coordination of getting them to where they needed to go has always been challenging. But now more of my challenge, as we talked before, is like making sure that they have what they want, the food and the nutrition that they need for each of them to achieve what they need. And like we talked about, it's a little different for both. So
And then, is there one thing that you wish you knew back then that would be
Yes.
beneficial to someone that's going through the process now?
Specifically when it comes to female weightlifting, what would you say if there was a mom listening right now and she was at the beginning stages of her daughter mentioning that she wanted to get involved in lifting? What would you say to that mom?
I would say find a gym that they're certified because those coaches know technique and they know what they're doing. Find a gym that will let them try it out too. And a lot of these gyms will. It's like, hey, come try it out, see if you like it. I think finding the right coaching staff makes a big difference. And again, it's very lifting can be is very technique. There's a lot of technique involved in lifting some of this heavy weight. So I would definitely encourage them to let them try it out and find a gym that are certified for Olympic weightlifting, because obviously you don't want somebody to try it out and get injured, because then that's going to just ruin the whole experience. You want to find somebody that is certified and can teach you proper technique and try it out. I always encourage try it out. You will probably fall in love with it. So yes.
And US weightlifting is the national sanction body that you would recommend that they look for?
Yes, the coaches are certified weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting. There's different levels, certified level 1, 2, I think it goes up to 3. USA Weightlifting is just the governing body over it, but your coaches don't necessarily, if you want to compete, your coaches have to be part of the USA Weightlifting membership, just like Marilisa is part of the athlete, call it the lifter membership in order to compete in these competitions. So do the coaches have to be enrolled with USA Weightlifting.
I like that.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily have to have a USA Weightlifting coach unless you're looking to compete. But if you're just looking to try it out, find somebody that is certified so you can learn proper technique. Like I said, there's a lot of technique.
And in your opinion, like the average age that they start right now?
I'm seeing like really young girls, and they're not going to make them lift heavy. They're going to focus on technique. I mean, you see them and they go out and compete. They go and get on the stage and they will compete. And I would say that they're probably like fifth graders, maybe sixth graders. Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. It's encouraging to see how young now they're getting interested in doing this, because you don't see that very often. It's very fun to see them. Again, they're learning the technique, they're not lifting heavy weights, but they're starting their journey, they're starting that process. They're starting
Everybody
to
wants
learn.
a strong daughter, and this just
Yes.
we'll build both sides, physical and mental strong, so I love that. Yeah, now that it's an Olympic sport, I think they're only up. It's what, the 25th anniversary of it being, introduced into the Olympics, and I think it still has an upward trajectory more than anything. And
Yeah.
it's where we are in the country too. I mean, yes, there's a lot of unhealthy, but there's a huge health movement to be a healthier individual, and it's a lifetime sport, so you can do it for a very, very long time, like golf and tennis. You can continue to do it, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can continue to compete.
So we like to do a little fun at the end here, where when you go to your games or your meets, everybody usually has to bring a clear bag.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to see, what 3 things would you have in your clear bag that you'd recommend everybody else have?
Both like to drink a Celsius, which may not be the best thing, but they drink it right before either lifting or a game, just to kind of give them that little extra energy zap, if you will, to keep them going. And then, sometimes Band-Aids and Advil and stuff like that are helpful for Mother Lisa. For Mother Lisa,
Nobody said that so far. That's amazing.
yeah. And then tape, because weightlifters have to wrap their fingers to lift, because there's so much rubbing that happens with that barbell and their fingers, and they have to call the grip that they do is very technique and specific, so it rubs a lot in between. So if I, from my perspective of a parent, and you live in Florida, carry bug spray.
Just hit me how different your kids are. One's an outdoor sport, one's an indoor
Yeah.
sport.
Yes.
You probably have 2 different bags.
Yes. And like I said, they have their own bags too. They carry their stuff, but just in case there's, a little extras of here and there's. But yes, the clear bag, yeah, we got to take that. So.
Well,
That's awesome.
this brings me back to when my son was growing up, and I think I told Heather this before. I always carried extra shoelaces in case his shoelace broke in his cleats.
Yes.
I always
I would have never thought of that one.
No, we haven't we haven't had that issue happen, but I'm sure if that would have happened, like I would be like you, if something must have happened for you to have the extra shoelaces.
No, I must have had some nightmare one time or something. I don't know. I always had my shoelaces.
I never
Yeah,
had shoelaces.
no.
I'm always a poncho girl in Florida.
I'm
You
sorry.
never know when it's going to rain.
Oh yes, but yes, as you know, Florida, you gotta project for that happening as well, because you could be out there and it's nice and sunny, and then turn around, it's like, oh, here come the clouds, and you get a downpour.
Yeah, and it lasts 10 minutes and then it's 900 degrees again.
Then mine always played in the cold, so I always had mittens,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See,
Mittens have been popular with our moms on the show.
gloves and mittens.
yeah,
Yeah. We played games in high school up in North Florida, and it's not the same as Central Florida. It's not that far of a distance. I know, but it is temperature-wise, like playing in Central Florida and then going to the Jacksonville area, man,
yeah.
it can get cold up there.
And
There
that's
is a
totally
difference.
different from South Florida. South
Yeah,
Florida as a whole, right?
Yes, we're always on tropical time over there, I think, in South Florida.
always.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I carry a poncho.
yeah. And that was the other thing with Marilisa. Not only does she not like balls, she doesn't like to be outside sweating.
So she found the perfect sport.
This was the perfect thing for her. Yeah, yeah. It's always indoors. So, and it's,
I mean, she still sweats, but it's not gonna the same
yes.
type of sweat.
No, she just doesn't like the humidity, the mugginess that comes with being outside. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
This is like, I'm done. So, yeah, yeah. She's funny about that.
All right. Well, I think we've done a great job here.
I think so too.
Thank you so much for joining us, Alejandra. We really enjoyed learning more about weightlifting and getting to know you better and your family. So thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank
I
you. Very
appreciate it.
interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time as well. And like I said, I'm glad that, maybe the word gets out there to other listeners about, girls weightlifting sports and, something to go check out for themselves as well.
Yeah, girls who lift. That's really cool.
Yep, absolutely.